Joining me now to talk more about the shooting and the unrest in Philly is retired NYPD detective and Law Enforcement Today contributor, Rob O'Donnell. Welcome to Real America, Rob. How are you, sir?
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Thanks for coming on so short notice. I know we just spoke a little bit ago, and let's get right to it. You were on the streets of New York for a long time. You've seen a lot of stuff in the cities. I'm sure you've been watching now this past summer and fall as we've watched city after city, from Portland to now Philadelphia and many cities in between, burn in communities that are predominantly black over a black man being killed by police. And of course, the first thing the narrative is by the mainstream media and the left: racism, racism, racism. I'm sure you've watched the video. You've seen what happened. Your thoughts?
Well, anyone who's seen the video can see that these officers gave multiple verbal commands. They tactically retreated several times to around a whole vehicle to where he kept pursuing with the gun, with the knife in his hand, to where they had to resort to deadly force. There's a rule in law enforcement, the 21-foot rule, where you do not let someone get it within 21 feet of you with that knife. And he was well within that distance, and the officers needed to resort to deadly force. It's a tragedy. Anytime the police need to use deadly force, it's a tragedy. But not all tragedies are a crime. Not all tragedies are racially motivated. Not all tragedies are because of police misconduct. This will be investigated on several levels. I'm assuming it'll be seen that the police acted properly, because anything I saw in that video shows that they acted properly. And this is where we're at in America today, where any shooting, any police use of force, justified or not, is demonized and used as a stepping stone for unrest that we've seen in Philadelphia and nationwide.
You know what's interesting to me, Rob? This all started, of course, when George Floyd died. And I say died, not killed yet, because there's conflicting information about the autopsies. Of course, he had multiple drugs in his system, and he was screaming, "I can't breathe," in the vehicle 20 minutes before the officer put the knee in the back, which, yes, maybe that was excessive force. However, he was obviously in distress because of the multiple amounts of drugs he was on. So I say died instead of killed, but I don't want to digress into that. Let's go back to this current one that happened to Mr. Wallace in Philadelphia. And something that the former Vice President Joe Biden said the other day: well, we need retraining, repolicing. Why don't cops just shoot him in the leg? Would you like to explain for folks out there? I've been through training with cops multiple times. I'm a military veteran. I was pretty decent marksman, and I have my CCW I carry, so I get it. But a lot of folks I don't think get it. So why is that statement by former Vice President Joe Biden just pretty much asinine, to say shoot somebody in the leg instead of killing them?
Yeah. First of all, no police officer in America is trained to kill someone. They're trained to stop the threat. And that's what these officers are doing. That's what officers do every time they use deadly force. Center mass is where we're trained, because this is a volatile situation. Your adrenaline's going, you're moving. You shoot for center mass because it's your best chance of hitting the target. Shooting for the leg, shooting for a weapon out of the hand is just ridiculous, because A, you're most likely not going to hit a leg if in a moving target. And if you do, you have just as much chance to kill that individual, because you hit the femoral artery, they're going to bleed out in a minute and a half. And if you hit them and just aggravate them and anger them, they're going to come at you even more angry than they were to begin with. So, the whole thing is a thing of fiction, the Hollywood, shoot the gun out of the hand, shoot the weapon out of the hand, shoot them in the leg, shoot them in the arm. We're trained to stop the threat by shooting center mass, and that's our biggest chance. You have other pedestrians out on the street. You have backfire, where those rounds could go downrange and hit innocent bystanders, somebody crossing the street, children riding their bicycles. So it's just, in the history of police departments, no one is ever trained to shoot somebody in the leg or shoot to kill.
Let's talk about this whole movement that erupted over the summer with defund the police. On one side, you have the left screaming that we need to retrain police officers out there so they can deal with, like in this case, a mentally ill citizen. Yet then they scream defund. Obviously, the two don't go together. It's just absurd to me that they say those two things. But let's talk about, real quickly, retraining police officers. Mr. Wallace was in distress. The wife has come out and said they told police that. I believe there are 911 calls to back that up, that he had mental issues. And yet cops were forced by his actions to fire at him because he brought the knife towards them. What do you think needs to be done moving forward, though? We need some sort of, I think, retraining to handle folks with mentally ill capacity, don't you think?
Sure, and no doubt. And I'll take that training one step further. This is an issue created by these same politicians that want to defund and take away funding for this training, that took away funding for the mentally ill, for closed, mental institutions to help for this. So it's been left up to the law enforcement officer on the street to deal with these mentally ill patients where they were never supposed to be doing that. We have facilities to deal with that, but you put them out all on the street. You've lowered their care that they get. You've canceled the programs from these municipalities that they used to deal with them, and now it's up to the law enforcement officer in the street to be the police officer, to be the psychologist, to be the social worker, and that's never what we were meant to do. It's not in our skill set, but there's always better training that we can do. There's always a conversation for training, but by defunding the police, the first thing that's cut is training. So like you said, it's an oxymoron, this defund the police movement to begin with, if that's what they want, better training.
Yeah, exactly. Don't throw all the blame on police officers, our brave men and women who don that uniform every day and just want to get home to their families like every average citizen out there in America. Rob O'Donnell, thank you so much for joining Real America, providing some insight from all the years that you had investigating and walking the beat there in New York. Stay safe, brother, and we'll have you back on the show real soon.
Thanks again for having me, Dan.
Yep, take care. Here's a question for you. Is journalism dead in this country? You might think so, since nearly all of the lamestream media refuses to cover the Biden family corruption story and their ties to China. Coming up after the break, more on what former Biden business partner Tony Bobulinski revealed last night in his hour-long interview. Plus, a former National Security Council member sounds off here on the show about the cover-up. Don't go away.